trust is the currency of our businesses. Number 2 big point for today, employees are billboards. Hire and train with patience. Don't be hasty in that. We're going to dive deeper into that. And our 3rd big point for today, delayed gratification is an indicator of future success. And we're going to look at, if we have time, see an example of that in a pretty interesting study that was done with marshmallows and children. We'll get into that later, but let's jump right in. So what does the Bible say about your personal and employee development, on how you live, integrity? We're all probably familiar with this first verse, Matthew 6:33. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. But I really like how this is laid out. We need to seek the kingdom of God. That's an action. We are being active, our participant. We are seeking the kingdom of God and living righteously. And so that is integrity. And we're going to dive into more of integrity. And he will give you everything that you need. And then we see God come in and he is our provider. But a lot of us, I think our default is to get that verse backwards, right? We say, God, bless me, bless me, bless me, and then I'll serve you. Or praying, God, send a miracle, and then I will take action with my business. Send me money, and then I will start my business. But this verse lays it out the opposite, where we're required to step out and to seek the kingdom, to live righteously, and then God will give you everything you need. And then James 4:6, God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. I think that the humble is what stands out to me in that verse, because as you are running your business, as time goes on, it's harder to stay humble. As you get success, as you start finding success and having customers and having a good revenue come in, it's more difficult to stay humble, and that's essential, absolutely essential. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. This is the value of work. We've hit that before, but that it stands the test of time, that and that lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. That ties right back into our first verse there, seeking the kingdom, living righteous. Those are diligent hands. To be living righteously requires your hands to be diligent in all that you do. And this is a kind of one of the main verses for this lesson, but also a lot of God's laws for businesses, Deuteronomy 8:18, which is, remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors as it is today. So God has given us the ability to produce wealth. He has not just given us wealth. He has not just blessed wealth to be hidden somewhere that will reveal itself or we find. No, he has given us the ability to produce wealth. And that confirms his covenant. It's part of his covenant, is giving us the ability to produce wealth. So let's carry that verse with us today and into the future, knowing that God has placed the opportunity, he's placed the ability, and he's placed the calling for us to confirm the covenant of us using our hands to produce wealth. So why is the law of personal employee development important? Well, especially if you're starting off small, you think, well, it's not a big deal how I set things up now. But I guarantee if you're following God's laws for business and you're going step by step, things are going to grow, and you want to have this foundation solid of your business. And also this is true of your ministry, of your life. If your marriage, you want to have a solid foundation so that you can build and grow. Because if your foundation is messed up, then your whole house will crumble later. Like a physical building, as you build your business, the foundation is crucial. You as the business owner, as the ministry leader, as the partner in your marriage, you establish the foundational levels of integrity, quality, financial management. You establish the work ethic that other people see and will replicate. You establish the level of organization I don't, I don't know if you've gone into a shop or seen a delivery driver's vehicle or something, and it's just a scatter of papers. It's just a scatter of papers. There's no way that that person, as a business leader, can expect any employee or person that's underneath them that they're training to be rising above that example of disorder. And so you, as the business owner, establish that, and it's more of what people see. It's like parenting, right? Many of us have kids that are in this class right now, me included. I have 4 kids, and it's true time and time again that I notice my kids doing what I do, and it doesn't matter as much what I say, because what I do is what they see, what they're watching, and just how they process the world, what they're going to replicate. So that's the same with our businesses, with our ministries. And I know we know that, but it's something we have to hear over and over again. What we do is so much more important than what we say. What we say needs to line up with what we do, of course. But we have to make sure that we're not saying one thing and doing another, that we're not telling our children to be patient and we are impatient with them, or we're not telling our employees to be tidy and neat and we are a mess, or we're not telling our ministry partners to not get angry or treat others with disrespect, and then we're treating those same people in the meetings that we have or in engagements with disrespect. We have to be practicing what we're preaching. We have to be practicing what we're saying. So the decision is yours, and you have to decide this from day one. No matter what, I am going to be unashamedly ethical, no matter the cost. I'm going to be truthful. This business, this house, this ministry is going to be truthful and have integrity. And especially when you run a business, you have so many opportunities to cut corners, to maybe reduce the quality, or to maybe not report your taxes as you should. There's so many opportunities, but we know that God sees everything that we do, and that God, not only is he watching but he also is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. So the decision is yours. Your level of ethics will be replicated by your family, by your employees, and your business. And your level of integrity is directly related to how much customers trust you. And let's jump right into the next slide, because this is such a big point. Trust is the currency of your customers. Trust is the currency of the world, right? We all have paper money and we all have coins. That money, paper money, coins, would mean nothing if we didn't have trust that it had value. So if I didn't trust that your dollar, that if I got a dollar or a shilling from you and I could not spend that at a store, I wouldn't accept that dollar. And it's the same with our customers. They're not going to hand you their money if they don't trust you. In a free market economy where you have a choice to go to where you want to buy your goods or services, you will not go to someone that you don't trust. And that is so important, because what is trust? Trust is not just a magical thing that we can wave a wand or do these 2 exercises and boom, we have trust. No, trust is something that is a reflection of you. And that is a reflection of your whole person, of your whole worldview. And how do we establish it? Well, I mean, that's with a walk with God and living upright and justly. Because if we have that foundation, our relationship with God correct, then we can have our relationship with others can come out of that relationship with God, with Christ. And so it's important to remember to be willing to keep your word, no matter what the cost is, no matter if it's just with one person or if it's with 1,000 people, because breaking your word with one person Not only is it a sin, but it also can spread like wildfire. You may think, oh, it's just that one little person. I told them that I would be there at 5. It's fine. I can be there at 6 p.m. Not a big deal. But what you're doing is each time that you don't keep your word, each time that you don't deliver the quality that's expected or that was agreed upon, you're creating fractures in the foundation of your business. You're creating cracks in the foundation of your business. You're eroding that foundation each time that you break trust, even with a little, just a little bit with this customer over here and a little bit with that customer over there. And if you keep going down that path, then the foundation of your business will erode and your customers will go somewhere else where they know they can have 100% trust and 100% confidence that what they're buying, that the services that they're asking for are what they're getting. So the truth will come out no matter the circumstances, either now or, even if the truth doesn't come out here on earth that you see, the truth will come out in heaven, and there will be a reckoning for all of this. So that is an easy one to say, that no matter the circumstance, no matter the issue, no matter the situation, the truth will come out. So each party in a business deal should feel that the transaction was fair. That is a way that we're building trust. If your customer walks away feeling that it was a fair transaction, they'll come back. If they feel like, I don't know, did I really get a good deal? Is it really worth it for my children to be going to this school? Maybe I should look elsewhere. If they're not walking away from the transaction, from paying the tuition, from buying your goods and services, if they're not walking away from that, feeling that the transaction was fair, then that is another way that their trust in your business is going to erode. I'm not saying that we need to constantly be giving away everything. No, you have to, as the law of record keeping showed and that we studied, you have to be making a revenue. You have to be providing an income for yourself and your family for you to survive. So it's not evil. It's not wrong for you to have a profit, but we also need to make sure that our customers feel fair with their transactions. And we mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but pride destroys. Humility is a fertile field where your seeds of business can grow. I listened to a teaching recently that really it's by C.S. Lewis, and I recommend it. I'll see if I can link it in the notes. Let me make a note for that right now. And it goes into depth on how pride is the single worst sin, the single worst disease that we can have as humans. And if we look at throughout the history, what we see through the Bible is that pride is the worst of the worst, and is what has caused the downfall of Satan with his pride, and of us humans, and that all of us are in that same boat. When Satan said, I want to have the glory and splendor of the heavens. I want all the angels to be looking at me and worshiping me because I am so great and I'm so wonderful. That was the fracture in his foundation that caused it to crumble and for him to fall, not only out of heaven, but into eternal hell. And when we look at Adam and Eve, their pride that they knew better, that God had given them instructions, and that maybe God didn't give them all instructions. I think I know better. I'm not going to trust or follow him. That was the crack and the fracture in their foundation where they fell. And the same is for us. As soon as we start getting prideful, that is a dangerous, dangerous place to be, because our fall will come from pride. So we have to remember, humility is a fertile field. And what is humility? It's serving your customers. It's taking care of them, putting them first. It's serving your employees, taking care of them, putting them first. And all right, let's move on. The value of work in your life. Now, why are you in business? If it's just for money, it will not last. And yes, work is essential. God demonstrated this when he created the universe, including a day of rest. God worked. He could have just said a word once and just done it all. No, but he gave us the example of each day. He worked 6 days and then he took a rest on the seventh. And that work, he gave us that example that work is holy, it's honorable, it's not a curse. When he gave Adam the commandment to work, to tend the garden, to be fruitful, to multiply, when he gave him those commandments, that was not a curse. That was in the perfect world. That was before sin. In God's perfect world, in the Garden of Eden, was work, and work is honorable. So persistent, hard work will pay off in the future, because that is the thread that God wove the perfect world in Eden together with. So do not quit. Work hard and become a leader. Be lazy and never succeed. That's Proverbs 12:24. Very clear there. Very clear. There's no two ways about it. That God has called us and commanded us to work and to work hard, but not to work and to make money our idol. That's where we can get off track. And I think many of you guys have seen it. I've seen it with some of my friends, or even some of the parents and friends that I know here in the area, that once they started off right. They started off working and having a balance with their life. But yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Let's do that. I'm sorry. It's on I've got 2 screens, and it's on the other screen. Let me make you a co-host real quick. There we go. All right. You should be good now, Judith. Okay. Thank you so much. Good. I thought I'd done something wrong at first. I'm like, oh no, I'm in trouble by Judith. She's stopping. But great. We can keep moving on here. So yes, we're talking about employees, building on your foundation. So hiring your first employee, really any of your employees, but hiring your first employee correctly is crucial. They are an extension and an expansion of who you are. Their words and deeds represent your business to the world. Each time you hire an employee or you have an employee, they are walking billboards for your business. They are advertisers for your business. Yes, inside of your company, inside of your business, throughout the day-to-day transactions of your business, but even when they step away and they leave work, people know where they work, people know who they are, and they are still an advertisement and a representative of your business even after they walk away from their duties for the day. So it's important to hire the best person for the job, and to not just hire someone because they need a job, or to hire out of emotion or pity. And let's get through these real quick. If you're unsure or whether to hire a person, just give yourself some time. Give yourself 1 or 3 days to think about it, to pray about it, to ask God for wisdom, to seek the Holy Spirit's guidance, so that you can base your hiring decision on skill, on experience, on ability, and to not base your hiring decision on emotion or on immediate need or on them being a family member. And so be very careful when you hire a relative outside of your immediate household, because when you hire someone, relative or not, you have to hire them with the mindset of, I have to be able to fire this person if they are not producing, if they are not contributing to the business. Not out of anger, not out of frustration, but as we learned with record keeping, you can't have your business bleeding money. You can't be spending money on an employee and have them not producing, having them not contributing. And so when you hire someone, you have to ask yourself that from the very beginning. If I hire this person, do I have the ability? Can I follow through with firing them? Because if the answer is no, if it's your mother or your cousin, and you're honest with yourself and you say, man, it would be so hard to fire this person. They have kids that are depending on them. They would be an emotional wreck. They would be crying. I could not do that to them. Well, do yourself a favor, do them a favor. Don't hire them, because you can't hire someone that you're unable to fire. You have to hire someone that you're able to fire. And that sounds mean, that sounds rude, but it's the truth. If your arm was bleeding or rather, if your arm had an infection, or if your body had an infection, you wouldn't just ignore that. Because if you just ignore an infection in your body or in your arm or in your leg or anywhere, if you just ignore that, what happens? Does it get better? No, if you have an infection, you've got to treat it with medicine. You've got to take care of it and seek medical help, put bandages on it, clean it out. You got to get that infection out. You got to kill the infection and get it out of there. And I mean, that's the same principle that's in the verse of, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. What's the principle there? That sin, like an infection, doesn't just get better over time. We have to take action, and that can start and save you a world of hurt and a world of trouble if you establish that in the beginning and say, you know what? I love you too much, my cousin or my brother, to hire you. Because I know that this is business, there's money involved. And if we path, we're going to have some tough times. And it's best for our relationship, because I love you and I want to have a relationship that's not, that doesn't get fractured or broken because of money or because of a work situation. I love you so much that I can't hire you for this job. I know that may not make sense. I know that may be difficult to understand, and I know that it looks like I'm being rude or mean to you, but the truth is I love you so much that I just cannot hire you for this position, or I can't have you come on board right now. And to have that open and honest conversation up front. This is something that's very near and dear to me, because I know in the coming year, I'm probably going to have this conversation again with one of my family members. I just had this conversation just a few days ago. It was not easy. It was not easy. I'm not saying it is, but a little bit of pain now will save a lot of pain later. And that's part of delayed gratification. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But this is a great sketch or a great outline for you to have when it comes to training. This is a great model. We're going to go over it right now. This is a great model for you to have with your employees. This is a great model for you to have with your children. This is a great model for you to have with anybody that's helping in your ministry. Is I do the action and you watch. And then and this is when you're trying to train them. Once they see you do it, then you invite them to help. Okay, I'm going to, let's just say we're cooking a meal or making a meal. I'm going to make this meal. Now I want you to help. And so you help and join in. And then we say, okay, now you do it and I help. So you transfer the responsibility over. You do the action. You start cooking, you get in there and you start leading it, and I'll help you when you need it. And then the final step, the transfer of ownership, is you do, and I'll just watch. And I can observe. And I'm not going to step in unless absolutely necessary. I'm just going to be here, be the safety net, the net underneath you. If something falls or starts going wrong, then I'll be there to help out. And then that's how you can transfer ownership. We saw, if you guys, how many people read the story from this week's lesson about Luca and Yandel? And we see a lot of these things in Luca's story that the pain in his story that could have been avoided. He did not do this proper training method. He kind of just said, hey, here's popcorn. You can know how to make popcorn. Go for it. And then Luca went off to sell and to start to take care of his customers and expand his business. He thought, great, I hired an employee. He can handle it. I'm going to go sell and I'll come back. Well, what happened? When he came back, because he had not been patient, he had not properly trained his employee, there were some mistakes that were made, and some big mistakes that could have been averted with, a little more patience and training with walking through this. Let me make the popcorn and you just watch the first time. And then, okay, we're going to make a second batch. Now I'm going to do most of it, but I'd like you to do these 3 steps. And walking through it. Maybe you can condense this down to 3 steps, but really this is important. This is great with your children too, to help give them ownership and to really give them the gift of independence, of being able to do bigger tasks. And you can walk through these steps to do that. And it's true, a poorly trained employee can decrease profit and production. It'd be better if you hadn't hired them at all. And that's what we saw in the story of Luca and Yandel. It would have been better for Luca if he hadn't hired his I think it's his cousin, his family member, because not only did the poorly trained employee, his relative, destroy some of his equipment, he also damaged the relationship with one of his big customers, and also set him back in pay because he paid him for that day. And he, I mean, those are the 2 big things. He damaged his equipment and he ruined a relationship and lost customers. And then now they have a bad relationship, right? Because Yandel is expecting to get paid. He was there, he showed up. It wasn't his fault that he didn't know how to run the popcorn thing correctly. It wasn't his fault that someone stole the popcorn as he was in the middle of his workday. It wasn't Yandel's fault that he fell and got his hand cut. He was working for Luca. So now Yandel is expecting money. He's expecting to get paid. He's expecting him to get help with getting some medical attention to his hand that's cut really bad. And all of that pain could have been averted if Luca would have made the hard decision of, you know what, I need to hire someone that has ability, that is a humble, good learner, that is a good fit for this position, not just an employee or relative. So building on your foundation with employees, employee attitude will spread. And that attitude comes from you as the leader. As we learned at the very beginning of this lesson, you establish the foundational level of attitude, of work ethic, of organization, and it will spread from you down into your employees. We have to remember that high quality, high producing, valuable employees will not be attracted to poorly run businesses that lack integrity. This is true here. There's a company here in our area that has grown across the nation. And one of the things that you see when you walk into that store and that you feel is that they have high quality employees. You walk in, they greet you, they say, "Hey, welcome in. We're glad that you're here today. Can I help you?" And you walk up. If you ask any of them for help, they'll stop what they're doing and help you. They're quick and knowledgeable in the realm of their business. And that attracts other people that are high performers. High performers say, "Hey, wow, that's a winning team. I want to be on the winning team." If you're a high performer and you have the choice between going to a lazy, poorly run business or one that looks like a great, well-oiled machine that's just working together so well, it's a simple choice. So high quality, high producing, valuable employees will be attracted to that same environment. All right. And the status of your company should not be based on the number of employees you have. I've heard this story many times of people just getting a loan, getting some capital, and just wanting to grow their business big, and being able to say, "I've got 5 employees out there working today. This is awesome." And that kind of pumps you up. That kind of pumps up that pride side of you. But the truth is the truth is found in the record keeping. Do you need these employees? Is it helping to increase your revenue? Or, to be truthful, is this just something that makes you look good to other people, that feels good when you hire employees? Because if each employee that you hire, you can't just hire them and bring them on board without delegating some work and responsibilities to them. And delegation requires a willingness to pay for short-term failures as your employees learn. They're learning, they're testing, and they're learning the procedures of your business. So delegation requires you to pay that upfront cost of training and of getting them up to speed to be able to be a representative of your company. That's the payment up front in order for the long-term gains for your business, the increased productivity, the increased revenue, the increased ability for you to serve your customers. So delegation is required in your business. Now, personal employee development. Seize the opportunity to develop the skills, integrity, and even the physical health of both you and your employees. If you are not healthy, if you're sick, if your body is not in a healthy state, that brings down your ability to perform. I know for me, when I'm tired, when I'm sick, man, my patience level is much lower. My ability to think and to produce and to be creative and to solve problems, that's reduced. It's the same for your employees. We have to respect them just like we're respecting ourselves, and we need to have a healthy balance of rest. We need to have a healthy body. We need to have the opportunity and the ability to have a healthy body. So as you continue to develop your own character, your employees will come. And what does that mean? Developing your own character. And how do we model that with employees? What can you do throughout the day to show that you are actively working at improving your character? It doesn't have to be big things. You know, you have a couple Bible verses taped up in your office that you're memorizing, or you have a prayer. You stop and have a prayer time just for a couple of minutes, or you begin the day with a small devotional with your employees. Or you just any way that you can bring that into the work environment just to live as an example is a way that you can help shape the expectations and the reality of your workplace. And that's the same with our kids. If you don't have employees, I don't want this lesson to just fly over your head and for you to say, okay, this isn't for me. No, if you have employees, if you have children, you have people watching you. You have people that are getting trained. You are training your children every day, whether you like it or not. And when we train, we need the people that are around us to know the vision and the direction of our business. All right. So those were one thing that I wanted to go back to and hit a little bit more is this delegation, the last point on this last slide here. Delegation requires the willingness to pay for short-term failures in order to gain long-term gains. And there's an interesting experiment here. I am going to share my screen here. It's the marshmallow experiment. I don't know if you guys have seen or heard this. I'm going to go ahead and play this, and then I'll fill in some of the details after we watch it here. So let's see. I think I can make this full screen for you. There we go. All right.
Marshmallow test is a psychology experiment from the late 1960s, designed by a guy called Walter Mischel. The idea is you give young children a marshmallow and say you can eat it straight away, or if you don't eat it and hold on for 10 minutes, you can get a second marshmallow. It's all about delayed gratification. Mischel said that those people who are good at the marshmallow test went on to have more successful lives. Now we're going to see whether the test works just as well with children of our own generation. We've got Celia, who's 6, and we got B, who is 4. I'm going to give you a marshmallow. If you want, you can eat this straight away, or you can wait for a bit until I come back into the room and you'll get a second marshmallow. Okay? I'll leave it up to you. I'm going to leave the room for a bit. Bye-bye. Okay, girls, how did you do? You haven't eaten yours. And what happened to yours, B? Where is it? What, it's there in your tummy? Is it? So you couldn't wait for another one. So you, as a reward, get another marshmallow. What do you think of that?
All right, so I know that's a cute example, but it is really interesting in this. The original example was or experiment was very similar to this. They did this with a number of children, and they tested to see, okay, can these children, which children have the ability to have delayed gratification? Which children are in control of their desires and emotions long enough to be able to wait for 15 minutes, I believe was the experiment, the original one. Wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows to double the amount of marshmallows that they get from the beginning. And the interesting thing is that what is this showing? It's showing delayed gratification. It's showing which kids have the ability to say, no, I'll wait. I will not have this yummy, tasty, sugary thing that's right in front of me. I'll wait for that because I know there's a greater reward coming. There's something bigger coming. That's delayed gratification. And the interesting thing is they followed and continued to study these children throughout their lives into, I think it was over the next 40 years. And what they learned is the children, adults, humans, people that had a stronger delayed gratification, they had higher levels of success in every area of their life. Their test scores throughout school were higher. Their jobs, they had more success in their jobs. They had better and longer marriages. That all of their success could be linked and have a direct correlation to delayed gratification that they had. And so this is interesting for us. I love this experiment because it shows us and reminds us the importance of delayed gratification. And what is this? It's being able to say no to distractions, being able to say no to, like we learned in the story about, I think it's John, that he said no to eating his profits, to having that cold soda. He wanted to buy a cold Coca-Cola at the end of the day after delivering all the groceries, but he decided to say no, to say to his money, stay in my pocket. And because he did that, he was able to grow his business, to grow his savings step by step. And that's the same principle that we're seeing here, that delayed gratification, being able to say no to something, to a small reward, or a small cost in the beginning, a small reward at the beginning, for later saying yes to a greater reward. And with training your employees, that's part of it too, or your children. It's a lot easier just to be impatient and say, hey, do this, go. We don't have time. Or I want you to do this, go quickly. And expecting them to learn and to be able to apply that in a short training time or without much guidance is not fair to them. It's not fair to you. What needs to happen is the reverse of that. You have to have the delayed gratification, knowing I have to invest my time. I have to pay a little bit more right now, because as I develop this child, as I develop this employee, then in the future, they can do much. There's a much greater return when they're able to be actively working independent from me. I'm not having to hold their hand through all of the business processes. But that takes some investment right now in your children and your employees. So that was a big point that I wanted to make sure that we covered. Let me share our screen, and we're going to jump into open it up for any questions about today's. Well, I won't share screen for right now. I'll open it up for questions right now from today's lesson, and then we'll go into a breakout room to discuss as a group after that. So does anyone have any questions from today's lesson? Anything that we can clarify? Don't be shy. Love getting questions from you, especially on this class. So go ahead. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's a tough question because when you're training, there's the opportunity for failure. Um, so I think, part of the answer to that is in the training method itself, looking and being open to, okay, and especially knowing your employee. If you know that one employee, let's call him Steve. If you know Steve, he has ability to do this right now that we're struggling with it. Let's work with Steve, maybe even specifically. So how can you produce some guardrails on the highway of training so that if his vehicle starts going off the road, then the guardrails help to keep them there. But you have to think through, okay, what is the best way to train this employee? Maybe it's you train them, you talk to them, say, hey, you're good for this job, but we got to do a little bit extra training. You train them a little bit before work starts, or you train them a little bit after, or you say, hey, for this first week or two during your lunch period, I need to be training you specifically on these things. So you look for opportunities to train them outside of a time when they have customer impact. Another way is just looking at your training, how you're training, trying to do that 4-step guide that we had in the teaching today of you doing it and them just watching, and that's the thing that takes extra time and takes extra money, right? Because you hired them and now they're not doing anything. They're just standing there watching you. And you're like, as a business owner, you're like, this person needs to be creating some revenue for us. I'm just giving them money right now and they're not doing anything. But that's okay because you want them to be watching you do it correctly. And then you begin that transition. As you're doing it, then you invite them to do little parts of it. And you explain to the customers, yeah, this is Steve. He's new. He's going to be helping me walk through this process. And then as he starts getting more competence, then you transition over to him leading and you helping. And as that goes on, then eventually you can transfer ownership over. So look for ways to train them outside of times when they have direct customer impact. And then also, and maybe that's you ask them and require them, hey, on the weekend when you're not working, I need you to train yourself to do these 3 things, and we'll go over them next Monday. Because it's not fair for you to hire someone that's not trained and throw them in front of other people and expect them that have a level of training at this level to be performing with a level of training at this level. That's not fair, and that's not being integrous and upright to your employee. That's like asking our children to go battle crocodiles when we've only had them tackle, getting some mice out of the house or something. That's not a great example, but you know what I mean. That you look at your employees as children. How would you set them up for success? What can we do as employers to set them up for success in their position? Creating some guidelines, some guardrails, and walking through with them on that training. And that's that's going to happen. We went to a business recently and we saw on the name tag that this person was in training. And so me as a customer, I had a little bit more grace for them because their manager was standing close by and they were having problems at the cash register, and it was frustrating. It took longer, but I saw it there in training. And so I thought, I'll give them a little bit extra grace. I'm not gonna get frustrated or upset at this. Yes. Sandra, do you have a comment to add?
join banking. Someone say employ according to character, but you cannot know someone's character unless you get them into the system. I was personally trained, but you can't attitude. You can't train attitude. I don't know. When it's like having a partner, you can't get to know them unless you're staying with them. You get it's the same thing with the employees. We come with different characters. In the beginning, I offended some characters, but good enough. I had a good manager who would call me, who would apologize to that customer. Yes, like we're sorry, but you're going to get this in check and blah blah blah. There you're learning, and then the manager would get you aside and tell you, you know what, my daughter, this is not how they do it. You're supposed to do this and this. You see this client now. She was my mentor at work, and with time, I got my attitude in check. You know, I was from campus and that pride and that, but with time, I got to know how the environment works, how I'm supposed to handle the clients. And I was able to be in that company for over 5 years and some months. So at some point, I think there is no way you can do it. Train them, be there. You can apologize to the clients. They understand because they're also working somewhere and have offended clients. I don't know. That is what I could add to it, because sometimes those things are unavoidable in the environment of business.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Sandra. What I hear you saying with your manager that trained you is that they treated you with love and respect, like they loved you like a daughter, and that they were rooting for your success. And even when you have a little bit of a bad attitude, it's like with our children. I have a child that sometimes they have a bad attitude, and I'm rooting for him to learn to have a good attitude even when he's doing things he doesn't like to do. And so what do? Do I get after him? Do I yell him? Don't have a bad attitude. Does that work? When you're angry, if someone says, don't be angry, does that work? No, that doesn't work very well. Maybe it works, but the quicker way to get there is to show, to come alongside, to be shoulder to shoulder and to walk through the process, to say and to understand, I know you're frustrated with this right now, but let me help you to see how we can make this better. And you walk through it with patience, with understanding, just like we would want to be treated and how we would want to be trained. So I don't want it to sound demeaning, like our employees or people that we're working with are not valuable, but it helps if you look at them as your children and to see them as your children and say, I love you as a child and I want you to be successful. I want you to grow in this position. I don't want you to just be some random stranger that I've thrown responsibility on and I expect you to do everything right. Well, I want to walk alongside you to capitalize on your strengths, to really champion and cheerlead your strengths. And where you have weakness, I want to help you develop those so that you're performing at the best that you can. Or maybe if you don't want to think about them as children, think about them as a coach. As a coach, it's not the coach's job to go out there and to score a goal in the football competition. No, it's the coach's job to get each of his players to perform at their max, to find their strengths, to find their weaknesses, and to develop those, and to get them to work together as a team, but each one individually working at the highest capacity that God has given them. Great input, Sandra. Thank you so much. Thank you. Pastor Jesse, do you have a question or a comment?
It's a question. And,
Yes.
my question is, how do you safeguard or how do you overcome the fear of training an employee who you know that at the end of the day, if they gain the experience, they're likely going to leave you and become your competitor, or after getting the experience, they're likely going to go. How do you safeguard that? How do you get that confidence and say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm working on this, I'm training this employee. But sometimes after the training, when they've got the experience, they leave.
Yeah.
I don't know if my question has been got well.
Yeah, that is a good question, and that's a really tough one. I want to open up to anyone that wants to contribute if they have an idea or answer to that. I think maybe Sandra, you have something to contribute here.
Yeah, I don't know, from the experience of some employers I've seen, I think that would make you a great person. I don't know, every employer should be there wishing well for their employees. I don't know if someone wants to be employed forever. No, that should, I don't know. I have an employer who's my friend, and for him, it makes him happy seeing his employees becoming his competitors because he knows he's doing great work. I know the turnover of workers and all that is a little frustrating, but for anyone, I think should make you happy. One should not be employed for a long time. As you're training them to be business owners tomorrow. And but at least by the time they decide on that, they should have worked for you for some good time. It's my point of view. I don't know how it will make you happy that everyone you worked with at the end of the day is a failure. So I think that one, I don't know how you can avoid it, but you expect, because even in organizations where we are being employed, at the end of the day, we the employees get fed up. I'm like, I think I need to do something out of this. I need that freedom. I know there are challenges in being employed. So once you sit down and you're like, I think I've been employed for some good time. I need to take a break. So as an employer, that should be expected.
Yeah.
Know that you're doing a good, you should be a well-wisher. Do not expect your employees to be employed forever. No. I think they need to grow. They need to grow. Whatever you're training them is helping them grow for tomorrow. Right. That is my point of view.
Yep. I think that's great. And I think, thank you, Sandra. I think kind of expounding on that, it's kind of like our children. We want our children, we want to train and raise up and develop our children. And it's actually a great thing if they leave our house, right? If they stay in our house forever and we keep them and we lock the door, that's not a healthy cycle of life. And so I think getting to the basis, the foundation of your question, like what really is the basis of this? And I think a big part of that is the word fear. Because what I hear you saying is a little bit of fear, I'm worried about this employee stealing the ideas or the training or going and becoming a competitor. And ruling and leading out of fear, if we just look at it at that most simplest level, ruling and leading out of fear has never produced a healthy, successful environment. We can look at this on a macro level, right? If we look at countries, look at the countries that have a dictator that's ruling out of fear. Do people want to live there? Or are people trying to get out of that country? A really crazy example of this is North Korea. I had the opportunity to go to the border between North Korea and South Korea. North Korea has a dictator and has for many years that's ruling out of fear. You have to do what I say because I know what's right. And if you try to leave, you're going to be in trouble or even killed. The crazy thing is at that border of North Korea and South Korea, they have constant hostility, right? They're competitors, if you want to look at it like that. But the thing that was crazy is at a border like that between North Korea and South Korea, that they're at war, essentially, they have barbed wire fence, you'd expect both of them to be pointing their guns at each other, right? Because they're ready for war. But the crazy thing is at North Korea, the soldiers were all facing North Korea. They were facing their homeland because they were more concerned with people running through the border and running and escaping than they were with who they see as their competitor, their enemy, South Korea. And so that was just a crazy example to me that ruling by fear and having that iron fist that will never, you may feel like that's going to keep my people here. That's going to keep my children in my home. That's going to keep my employees here. I'm going to keep them safe. I can't let them go. I don't want them to grow too much, because then they'll know too much, and then they'll go and be a competitor. They'll go to South Korea and start another company, or they'll go somewhere else and steal my customers. But anytime you see that played out, it's never a healthy or good situation, and that just crumbles from within. And that's the thing that is dangerous, is extending trust. Trust is dangerous. When you fall in love and you give someone your heart, that's dangerous. When God created this world and gave Adam and Eve the keys to this world and said, "This is yours. Be fruitful and multiply," that was dangerous, because there's the opportunity for failure, right? And that's the cost of having a healthy environment, a healthy relationship, is extending trust. But the thing that I will say is that if you commit to following God's laws for business, and you make God's laws for business the foundation of your company, including how you treat others, including your integrity, including the things that we talked about today, you can work towards having a great work environment that is so fantastic that when people leave, because yes, they will leave. When people leave, they'll say, I wish I was back there. You know what? My new boss, he does not have patience with me, and he doesn't want me to succeed because he's worried about me going elsewhere. Even though I left, I wish I was back there. And I guarantee you, some of those employees that go and to try to do it on their own, they'll come back, right? That's the story of the prodigal son. The father gave the prodigal son everything he asked for. And what did he do? He did go away. He did squander it. But he had his moment of waking up and saying, oh my goodness, I had it so good back then. I'll be a low-level employee. I'll be a servant of the servants in my father's house, and that's better than what it is now for me. So the foundation, I think, to answer your question is, do you want to run your business by fear, out of fear, or do you want to run it out of trust? And you can run it out of trust with a foundation of Jesus and a foundation of God's laws for business, knowing that you are doing it the correct way. And that even when people leave, some of them will come back. Even when people leave, you have wished them well, and you wish them success in what they're doing, because like we learned with the law of competition, it doesn't matter what the guys are doing around us, as long as we are striving to be better and serve our customers better today than what we did yesterday, and observing God's laws for business, you will succeed. You will. So don't let competition pull you away from serving your customers. Don't let the fear of someone leaving keep you from pouring yourself into your employees. If you create that environment that is such a great environment, the people are not going to want to leave as much. Some will, but it will help your retention rate. You'll have employees that are there for long and long and long. All right. And yes, there's a good comment here from Agnes. If your employees become your competitor, it's not a problem, because no one can do exactly what you do 100%. Absolutely agree with that. The truth is, God has given each one of you skills and talents and abilities that are unique to you. And you know that. And that is awesome. And that's exactly what Agnes is saying here. Ensure you are innovative so you can always stand out. And that is, what is that? Ensure that you're innovative. That's what we learned in the very first chapter, which is commit to learning. Keep learning. Learn from your experience. Learn from others' experience. So great point there, Agnes. I love that you included that. She also said, it's inevitable for employees to leave. The best thing is to always train more than one person, so that if one leaves, you have a backup. Promote the culture of having your employees empower one person to do what they do. And there's multiple layers of wisdom in there. Thank you, Agnes, for that comment. Because as you're training people, it's called cross-training. You want multiple people to be able to do multiple positions. People are going to get sick. People are going to have babies. People are going to have to move away. and you want to be able to have a seamless relationship, like a football team. If your goalie gets hurt and you don't have a goalie, what are you going to do? You need to have someone else on your team trained to be a goalie. And when you start training your team, your employees to train others, that's empowering them. That's when you do that, when you say, hey, I would like you to train this other person on your job because you do such a great job. We need to have a backup for this. That gives them the power. And if you've been ruling by fear, that person's reaction will probably be, oh, I'm going to get fired. If you have an environment of fear, that seeps all the way down to the bottom. But if you have an environment of trust and respect, then this can be an opportunity for you to honor that person, to say, you do such a great job. I want other people to learn how you do it because you've learned how to solve problems in this way. You've increased our customer satisfaction or our revenue in these ways. And I want other people to know that. When you create that culture of honor and respect, then that helps, that seeps down, and that gets pervades throughout your whole company. So thank you so much for those points, Agnes. Pastor Jesse, that is a tough question, and something that I think most, if not all of us, have struggled with at some point. Did that insight, did that help you, or do you have any more questions on that?
No, that is well answered. That is well answered. I appreciate the answering, and I also appreciate the contribution from Agnes.
Yeah. And I know I mentioned this just briefly, but I see this very clearly with parenting. Look at those parents that are very controlling, that they are stifling, or they say to their children, you can't do this, can't do this, can't do this. And they control everything with their children. I don't know about your culture, but for me, I have some friends growing up that were like that. Their parents were very controlling. Because their parents thought it was for their own good, right? Their parents thought that they're protecting them. I don't want you to get hurt, so you're not going to do this. I don't trust those people over there, so you're not going to do this. And what happened was, that was like a cast, right? Like when you break an arm and you have that cast. The parents made a permanent cast on their child's life so that when they grew up and it was time for them to go out on their own in the world, they took that cast off. The muscles and bones were so weak that they just fell. My friends were so weak that they just fell to every sin that was presented to them because their parents weren't there to be the person to say no. Their parents were the ones saying no for them so much that they didn't know how to say no themselves. And so that controlling environment, that ruling out of fear, does the exact opposite of what it's trying to do, which is to have a successful future for your student, or for your employee, for your student, for your child. And I see on the opposite side, I see other parents that slowly give their kids a little bit more freedom, a little bit more responsibility, and they're training them side by side. And yes, they make some mistakes along the way, but they're there with them to walk through it. That those parents that maybe their children experience a few more injuries because life isn't safe, a few more cuts and bruises, a few more mistakes, but the long run, they have transferred ownership over to them so that they can be strong, productive, successful humans. That's what we're doing. We're raising humans when we're parents, and when we're employers, we're raising humans as well to be successful. So it's tough. That'll happen sometimes where your employees will go off and work for somebody else, but you want them leaving your company with gratitude, saying they trained me. They gave me so much knowledge and success. They saw the value in me that now I can be valuable elsewhere. But that is a billboard and an advertisement for your company too, anywhere that they go. And if you do it right, I guarantee you some of them will come back because of like what Agnes said, that no one can do exactly what you do. So, all right, we're just about time to go into our breakout room. Sandra, I see you got a comment. If you got just a short comment, go for it.
Okay, I was talking about the employees. In some cases, you find our employers do not look at that. How should I frame it? They do not look at the economy. I have worked for you for years, and the economy is growing, the economy is getting tight, and you're not looking at that, and you want me to do the best for you. Sometimes, as employers, you should look at the comfortability of your employees. If I were in their shoes, would I still work for the same amount? If I were in their shoes, how would I want to be treated? You put yourself in your employees' shoes. Most cases, we worked for companies. I'll give an example of myself. I worked for my company for 5 years. I was going to make 6 years. I took a very tough decision. They gave me a transfer to Kampala. They were giving me 800 while I was working up country. I was fine with it because life this side was a little cheaper. Transferred me to Kampala, where life is tight. I have 800, my rent is 500,000. I have to feed myself and transport myself to work. Literally, I was working for nothing. So you as our employers should also look at, put your employees into consideration. Area, how much are you giving them? If you were in their shoes, would you be motivated to go to work? Motivation, usually, I don't know, they're called remuneration, something like that. Remuneration. That is the term we usually used to use. Look at your employees. If you are the one, the conditions in which they are working, she has to look for food, look for transport. You do not know her background home. So sometimes what makes the employees make a decision to start their own thing is because they are not growing. You as the employer, you want to grow financially, but as you're growing financially, you're not helping your employees to grow financially. So you'll have the employees make a tough decision. That is what I had to add. Sorry.
Yes, great. And that brings up a good point. I'll say this, and then we'll jump into our breakout, our breakout group, which is exactly what Sandra said. We need to put ourselves in the shoes of our employee to ask ourselves, how do I want to be treated? Treat others as you want to be treated. An interesting facet of this is that there's been studies that have been done on pay raises, because a lot of times if you're an employer, you think, well, if I give them a raise, that's what they need, that's what they want. But the positive impact, the positive emotional impact, the happiness that is brought on by a raise lasts about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, somewhere in there. It's a short period. So when you give someone a raise, that's just a short-term little boost. And that doesn't, how many other weeks are there? There's, 50, 60 other weeks between the next raise where that's not driving their work satisfaction. So how can you increase their job satisfaction, how they see every day of work that they're coming to longer than just 2 weeks? It's creating an environment of honor, of respect, where they feel valued and they feel like part of the team. And so you have that choice, Yes, money does come into play because we all have to pay our bills and rent or food. But deeper than that, and a greater impact with each of your employees is the environment that you create. And you get to set that tone. You get to create either a culture of honor or a culture of fear, a culture of respect or a culture of gossip and backbiting and talking behind the back. So that's an important thing for us to take, is just realizing, yes, money is important, but more than that is the culture and the environment that we create in each one of our own worlds, whether that's in ministry with your church or at home with your family or in your business. All right, so let's jump into this. This is a fun little, we'll just do a couple minutes on this because I think I think everyone at some point will come across this. I will share my screen real quick. Well, I've lost my Zoom controls, guys. I gotta find them. I don't know what happened here. Sorry, bear with me. There we go. All right. So our first question here is going to be more share screen. All right. Our first question here is going to be, have you had to say no to someone? Let's practice that right now. And imagine that. So here's the question. Have you had to say no to a request when you knew that, sorry, start over. Have you said yes to a request when you knew that you should have said no? So we're going to break into groups here and recreate this conversation and pretend or just walk through that you're a brother or a sister of each other, and you're asking for a job or for money, and just practice going through how can I politely say no, and explain or walk through this, not disrespectfully, but firmly saying, no, I'm sorry, that's not something that I can do. So create a situation. If you need an idea, if you've experienced this recently, use that example. If you know something that's coming, use that example. If you don't have an example, then just pretend with the other person that you guys are family members and that you need, that you're in need and are expecting to be hired and to get a paycheck from your other family member. So let's say, let's break into some rooms here. Let's see, how many people do we have today? We've got 15, so 4. All right. There we go. All right. Actually, I'm going to break us out into, 3 people-ish in a room. Okay. You'll either have 2 or 3 people in a room. If you're not able to contribute, then send a message, and that way I can know to put you in a different room if the other person's not able to have their microphone on or something like that. We're going to open all rooms, the breakout, and just take this time to practice that. Practice saying no to a hard request from someone that you love or respect. All right, let's go ahead and do this. All right, so I've created the rooms. You should have a prompt on your screen that says to join the room. So go ahead and hit that join the room, and you'll be able to discuss with another partner our group discussion question here. So like Gile, I know that you're driving. If you're able to hit that join button, and that'll open you up to have a conversation with Miss Elizabeth. But if not, I understand. So Victory and Aimable, if you guys, and Ruth, you should see on your screen join breakout session. If you can hit that button and then your group, then we can jump in and start having a discussion about this. All right. Pastor Jesse and Victoria and Samson, if you guys are able to, you should see a prompt on your screen that says join breakout room. And go ahead and hit that to join one of the breakout rooms if you can.